has come.
We saw a Pharisee go undercover to be an informant to the disciples.
Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge.
Excuse me, I don't trust you. Why you help me? That's my business. But so that you'll do as I ask. I believe my Rabbi Nicodemus saw something remarkable in your master.
Ooh. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and also welcome if you are new. I'm so grateful to have you all here. So my name is Akua and here on this channel I cover all things faith, culture and encouragement, and as you can tell from the title of the video, I'm going to be continuing on with my reactions to The Chosen with season 2 episode 7 part 2. But before I get straight into that, I just want to quickly encourage you to leave a like down below on today's video and also make sure to comment something that you're enjoying from my reaction or just something that you took away from this episode in general. And if you haven't already, then please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel before you exit the video. And also turn on that notification bell so you never miss a future upload. Also, quick plug to my Instagram, make sure to follow me over there at EstherABF or AkuaB, and that is just another platform where I share even more faith, culture and encouragement on a more daily basis. So now let's get into the verse for the video. And today's verse for the video takes us to Romans chapter 1 and we're going to focus in on verse 16. So it says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile." So I actually wasn't going to do this verse today. I had a completely different verse in mind and I had that one written down. I was passionate about it and I was ready to speak on it. But in my prayer time this morning, this verse came to mind and just the connections, the connected dots that were connected just made me think I needed to do this one. So I'm going to speak on this one today for a few minutes before we get into the reaction. So the first sentence is just a mic drop in itself. I am not ashamed of the gospel. And I think that is the approach and the mindset that we need to have as Christians and people of faith in general, because it is so easy to shy away from sharing the gospel, to minimize the gospel, to try to not offend people, to try not to, you know, ruffle feathers in the spaces that you're in, because just because you have an internal heart change or, you know, a spiritual conversion, it doesn't mean that people around you will be receptive to that. So the second part of this verse, it says, "Because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes." So that automatically gives us reassurance from the first part of this verse, where it says, "I am not ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of God that brings salvation." So if you have any anxiousness or any unease about sharing the gospel, if you know you're newly saved or you're just in a space that is quite quite volatile and it's probably not going to be received well if you share the gospel there, it says it's the power of God that brings salvation. So it's not your own righteousness, it's not your ability to boast how good God is and all of this stuff, it's the power of God. So God is really the one that brings about the spiritual conversion and the salvation to us. So it says first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. So we've especially seen depicted in The Chosen how Jesus's ministry, his earthly ministry, was more centered on the disciples, bringing the disciples to him, training them up so they could go out and spread the gospel in the first season. And now we're actually seeing how the Gentiles are being affected by Jesus's ministry. We saw the woman at the well, and then we have also now seen the impact that Jesus' ministry has had with some of the Romans even. I'm not actually quite sure of the person who he's like the secret agent for the Romans. I think he's definitely one to watch out for because he definitely seems to trust himself, and he said in the previous reaction that I did that he saw all these things happen. He was an eyewitness to multiple of Jesus's miracles, so he is very conflicted about what to believe, and we might even see a possible conversion. So I just thought I'd highlight this verse because it is such an impactful verse. I am not ashamed of the gospel. It is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone believes. First to the Jew, then to the Gentile. It's just a very bam, bam, mic drop verse in itself. So you could do a whole Bible study on this verse, but I just wanted to highlight that. Make sure to continue the conversation and the deductions in the comments down below. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this verse. So yeah, let's get straight into the reaction.
What happened? I stood there and did nothing while he was arrested.
He was specific.
Detained, not arrested. Those are just words. Have you no experience at Rome?
We have to go after them.
We agreed to surrender peacefully.
No! No! What if they change their minds? Have you forgotten what they're doing to John?
You're terrifying her. I will be fine.
Well, I'm going. They're headed north. I'll catch them in Jotapata and petition for his release.
Andrew, he didn't ask you to help.
He shouldn't have to! I don't recognize any of you.
Brother, you're not yourself.
Maybe I should come with you. I feel responsible.
You might be responsible.
Andrew,
How could you leave?
stop this.
Oh, we're coming to another contentious moment. It's weird because these moments aren't really depicted in the Gospels. Obviously, it's just a depiction, the show itself. But I can imagine there must have been moments where they got very frustrated with each other, especially when Jesus was absent, because obviously it came to the point where he did get taken away for good, and then the crucifixion happened and all of that. But there must have been times where they looked at each other and just like a moment of detachment and, you know, not feeling connected because they're going through so many emotions and the situations are so volatile. I can't imagine the strain that it would put on relationships.
Right now.
It isn't anyone's fault.
Mary, please, stay. I'll accompany Andrew. I had lots of experience waiting for my rabbi outside jails.
Why wait? Let's break him out.
Don't wait up.
And teach more of understanding, gradually bestow upon us from you wisdom, understanding, and knowledge.
Excuse?
This just makes me think of the verse where it's like saying they utter vain mutterings and all of this stuff like publicly, and it's just like, oh, it's such an outward show of righteousness. And not that praying is wrong or like obscene, but especially when it's so public and, you know, made to be such a spectacle, it's, you know, you've got to question, is it really genuine, you know?
Excuse me, friend. Shalom.
Oh, I paused it.
Oh, behold our affliction and wage our battle. For you are God, the Redeemer, the Mighty One.
We're from Jerusalem. We're looking for...
Cause us to return our Father to your
He does this
throne,
every
our
day.
King, to your service, and bring us back.
It's okay. We'll find someone else.
They're all like that in this city.
Interest. They're all like that in this city. I love how she sat there and she obviously looks a bit rugged and, you know, she could do with some help or something, but like they're just standing there doing all of these outward displays of religiousness, and, you know, she says they're all like that in this city. They don't hear you. Even the other Pharisees were trying to speak to him and he was just like carrying on. Like, wow, they're all like that in this city.
You seen any Ethiopians around here?
Not many.
She's like, money please.
What about a woman? Impossible to miss. Lots of jewelry, very striking, very loud.
Gets men like you upset?
Yes.
I'm not sure what could be clearer than the 3 words, I will be back. That's 4.
How can you dispute that?
Maybe it was a hint.
That we are supposed to be the fulfillment of those words?
Zealots and your secret handshakes and codes.
I am not a zealot anymore. Just zealous. There's a difference.
You just interpreted plain speech about trust and peacefulness as code for insurrection.
I think he's onto something. Rabbi told us how important this sermon is. We can't let anything stop it. Maybe it was a hint.
You're not going to keep me from another obvious fight, are you?
With these skills, we could do it.
James and John, be mindful of what he named you.
Seems perfect for a time like this.
I think we should do what he
Sons of
said and wait
thunder.
here for him.
Oh yes, great advice coming from someone who disappeared for 2 days.
How dare you?
Don't talk to her like that.
Oh, now he speaks. Suddenly he has a voice. When it's about her...
You've made mistakes too.
Boys, stop it.
Boys?
You're acting like children.
Nathaniel's right, the words were plain.
You weren't there.
So now it's a matter of whose testimony is more credible? Now look, you've upset our rabbi's imam.
I only made an
I
observation.
made a mistake leaving camp. I was wrong. I'm sorry, I relied on my own observation, my own understanding so heavily. Jesus said he will be back.
And reign over us.
Don't worry about that. We're here for God. We're supreme. We don't get in the way of either.
Where should we go first?
Jail. Come on, it's this way.
Judges as former crimes, and our counsels as of yore. Remove from us sorrow and sighing, and reign over us justice.
Andrew.
You alone is Lord. Righteousness and justice.
They say we're extreme.
Look at him. He can stand. It was faith that delivered this man a miracle.
That's more like it.
This.
I know her.
I'm quite.
Anyway, who cares? Come on, we have a rabbi to
I love that. Even like so long after the miracle, they're still talking about it and sharing it and being zealous for God and the gospel. Like, I think that can happen, like, especially as believers. We have faith for God to be moving in our lives all the time because he is always working, he's always moving. And I think when he does one thing, we can sometimes not be ungrateful for it, but kind of keep quiet about it, and then after a while and move on and expect the next thing. But they're still so passionate and vocal about what he did to them once. And it wasn't even the woman that was affected, it was the disabled man. But through her witnessing of that, she's like, this is God. And yeah, just that passion. I think we need that passion even over the smaller things.
Samaritans.
I cannot personally confirm it, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Who cares who he ministers to? I was paralyzed for 23 years and I stand before you now on two feet.
Who on earth can claim authority to forgive sins?
The kind of person that can tell a paralyzed man to stand, and the miracle happens in front of dozens of witnesses.
Could be witchcraft or sorcery.
Witches and sorcerers are required payment for their
And
services.
he gave freely.
But why is he in hiding?
We don't know.
He told the leper on the road to keep their healing a secret.
And then why are you telling people?
They gave us no such order to remain silent. I believe that he will make himself more known soon. I can sense it in my spirit, and you were there, in Capernaum.
Don't you? This man can attest he was a witness.
Yes.
Where is he?
You know this Jesus of Nazareth?
Is he here in time for that?
Please, come with me. Both of you.
I love the way they pay so much attention to the outfits as well, because the traditional dress back then, obviously we've seen a lot of the Jewish culture through that, but then also the Ethiopian, it definitely stands out, like the outfit that she's wearing. And all of the jewellery. And
drawing attention to Jesus.
How can we not speak about what we have seen? How can you remain silent?
The Romans?
What happened?
We'll tell you all about it. Why don't we go somewhere a little more private?
Hey, where are you going?
I'm so nervous, but I'm so excited for this conversation.
Did he resist?
No, Dominus.
He's
His
right
followers?
there.
Peaceful.
And compliant.
Have a seat. Leave us. Jesus of Nazareth. We finally meet.
Here I am.
I thought you'd be sort of taller, crazier looking. Wild hair and animal skins.
Glad I could disappoint you.
The first story I ever heard about him, I didn't believe it.
That's usually how it goes.
It wasn't about religion or preaching or God. It was about fish.
Oh, the
Another
fish.
common theme.
It was an impossibly huge catch, Atticus. It settled the largest debt of Parnham's ledger. Did you meet Atticus? He's cohortes urbanae. They're like Caesar's personal detectives, mostly in Rome, but they go wherever. He's especially interested in you. Have you ever visited the Far East, Jesus?
Have received visitors from there, but never been there myself.
They eat their fish raw. Peel off the scales, cut off the heads and tails, and take a bite.
It's quite something.
They eat the flesh and spit out the bones.
Of course.
If Simon had not settled his debt, that could have resulted in my demotion. That was flesh. You create a public disruption that results in damage to property, a stampede, and a blight on my personal reputation. Bones. You seduced the single most brilliant and effective tax collector in the entire Upper Galilee. Also, Bones. And now, the most tenured cohortes urbanae in the history of the Roman Empire tells me he personally witnessed you disarm a zealot Sicarii. Well, that's flesh. That's flesh.
Oh, yikes.
Sorry to have caused so much confusion for you over flesh and bone.
Confusion? No. No. If your race weren't so repugnant and odious, I'd offer you a job.
I cannot take that as a compliment.
Jesus, this whole thing is very simple. You seem to be splitting your time between creating headaches for Rome and victories we could not achieve ourselves.
That's a little reductive.
You've doubled your following since leaving Capernaum. Then again, you returned a violent man who had been terrorizing Jericho to his senses.
But word of your miracles, or whatever, has spread all through Syria, and they start coming over here. Do you see my problem? I don't know whether to eat you or spit you out, to stick to the fish metaphor. But we're probably past that now. I'm saying I don't know what to make of you.
That's going to be a lot of people's problem with me.
No more bones, Jesus. Follow me. No more draining my talent pool, creating spectacles, crowds. No more meddling.
Yikes. We know that's not gonna happen. Oh dear. This conversation is so interesting because it's kind of like a warning per se, because we're getting the perspective that Gaius is hearing all this information about the different things that Jesus has done and the people he's impacted and the way that he's impacted the society that they're in, and now he's brought him in for this kind of warning. But we know that Jesus doesn't really want to be rebellious in terms of blatantly wanting to disrespect Gaius, but this is his ministry, this is what he's here for, and it is going to offend, it is going to draw crowds in, it is going to cause some kind of disruption. So it's going to be interesting to see their future interactions and if it's going to be as civil as this.
I cannot promise any of these things.
And I cannot promise you won't stop breathing.
Oh.
It sounds like we're clear on what we can and cannot promise.
Honestly,
He's so crazy. He's so crazy. He's so chaotic.
Jesus of Nazareth, I like you. We're on the same team. Just don't make me kill you.
I won't make you do anything. But my father, on the other hand.
I don't know what that means, but let's leave on a high note. I think we have an understanding here. You're free to go. Oh, sorry about your cousin, by the way. Marching himself into Herod's court and moralizing was not a very wise or brave thing to do.
He knew what he was getting himself into.
Do you know what you're getting yourself into?
It was a privilege to speak with you today, Quintus.
He's called Quintus. Who's Gaius then?
Wow.
I think Gaius is the Matthew's
It was fun.
traitor.
So nothing about him concerns you, huh?
If it did, I wouldn't have let him go. It'd be a nice diversion for the people for a while.
What are you all doing here?
We were hearing stories about the man from Nazareth. From the Ethiopian woman and the man who claimed to have been here. Where have they gone? They all disappeared with the curly head man.
knew they were going to be exposed.
In what direction? Beyond those colonnades. Hurry.
Brothers, wait! Are you looking for a man who performs healings on Sabbath?
Yes. Who are you?
Has he invoked the title Son of Man from the prophet Daniel? You have
Yes,
witnessed
how
this?
did you know?
Is he here? We are from Bodycart.
Where? Why haven't you found her?
Ooh, they're all like ganging up to go and find Jesus.
Report. We did. We're a small town. He healed on Sabbath in our synagogue, and he got even worse from there. And there are women among his followers. 3, to be precise. Tell us everything.
Lord of the Sabbath,
I love her hair. She's making me want twists again. Oh.
Son of Man, are religious scandals no important to Rome?
I don't know why he was arrested. Rome may feel threatened as word spreads. I don't know. But you can't keep doing this. Not now.
I cannot keep what I know inside.
Don't you understand what I'm explaining?
I'm not a child.
It's dangerous. More than you know. Don't be alarmed. My name is Yusuf. You're a Pharisee from Capernaum. I spoke harshly to you at the house of Matthew. Don't worry about it. I'm not. You're being sought for questioning.
For what?
Testimony about Jesus of Nazareth. I told you. One of Nicodemus's former students named Shmuel has come in search of you. He will...
Former students. We can see the tension that's happened there.
twist your testimony to make an argument about false prophecy.
False.
I personally do not care about your convictions, and your testimony is worthless. What Shmuel wants is information about another healing and Jesus' background.
We both grew up in Egypt.
That's even worse.
It's so interesting how the Pharisee has come undercover in a way with his... I think it's trying to disguise himself as a Jewish person. Well, obviously a Jewish person, but as a non-Pharisee, as a more of a commoner. And it's just so interesting to see that the way that he's actually looking out for them, and he's really just taking the time out away from his peers to come and inform them. And I just wonder how many of them actually did this and actually maybe had a change of heart, even if they didn't renounce their titles as Pharisees, because Pharisees aren't necessarily an evil thing in and of themselves. It's what they were doing at the time and all of this different stuff. So it's going to be interesting.
Andrew, get her out of here. I don't trust you. Why you help me? That's my business. But so that you'll do as I ask, I believe my Rabbi Nicodemus saw something remarkable in your master.
Oh, he's a student of Nicodemus. I'm so excited. Honestly, I wonder if there's actually going to be some kind of split where the people that are under Nicodemus, for some reason, are more inclined to hear the gospel and to have softer hearts towards it, rather than the people who then choose to follow Shmuel and what he does and the methodology that and approach that he's taken in regards to the ministry of Jesus. Because obviously him being a student of Nicodemus, he's seen the change in Nicodemus, and not necessarily a complete shift, but just a softness of heart and open ears to be able to hear what Jesus has to say. So whereas Shmuel has really been hard-hearted to what Jesus has had to say, his ministry, and the way that he is not conflicted with the law, but the way that he perceives him to have conflicted with the law.
Shmuel is threatened by what he can't comprehend. Worse, he's ambitious. Shmuel does not honor Nicodemus' teaching. You are the paralytic man Jesus healed.
Yes.
Both of you must leave this place.
You should go with Andrew.
What will you do?
I'll lay low. Disappear until things go quiet.
What if things don't go quiet?
I hope they don't. But it's a good idea we separate for now.
Just take her with you.
I don't know if...
I do want to follow him.
Yeah.
We'll talk to him.
Oh.
Now. He's not here. Where are you?
Oh.
Okay then. Fill me in on the road.
Oh, Jesus was released, so he should be coming back.
He's back!
Teacher, are you hurt? What happened?
All right. I suppose I should not be surprised. You would spot me. I think not.
Oh, Rabbi, are you safe?
Did anyone follow you? Yes, I'm safe. And they just wanted to talk. I'm very happy. I'm glad, Matthew.
Just talk?
Quintus wanted to talk, yes. The Romans, I don't find me much of a threat, which is fine.
Hopefully that'll change soon.
So, what were you doing out here?
Praying, John. Remember, there's a big event to prepare for.
I think
Rabbi.
this is going to be the season finale, what they do in that. I think it might be the Sermon on the Mount.
With all due respect, you couldn't have told us that you were back first. You were grabbed by Roman soldiers with weapons. We were all worried sick.
Did I not tell you that I would be back? And to keep planning?
I think that's so interesting how that he said that, I told you to do this, why weren't you doing it? Like, you know, and I think there's a certain anxiety about not knowing as humans that really just bothers us. Like, we want to know, we want to have a grasp on what is happening, and we want to have, you know, a bird's eye view of all the things that could go wrong. And especially with the more anxious ones in the group, they're on edge with what has just happened with Jesus being taken in for questioning. But I think that's just another lesson that God teaches us, to really depend on his word. Like, we don't need to rely on our own perception of things, because his thoughts are not our thoughts and his ways are not our ways. So if he tells us something, that is truth, because God doesn't lie. And if he gives us instruction, we need to follow that and really have peace about it, because God will not give you something without peace. There's always peace in what God does, even if it's not the most clear thing to see through. There is peace in that. And when he told them, you know, wait, I'll be back, like, keep planning and, you know, preparing, that is the place and the peace that they should have been looking after, not just purely waiting for him to come back and doing nothing else. Like, he gave them a task. So I think that's just interesting to tell us to really have peace in what God says and to adhere to what he says as well.
We're all going to have to learn how to do this, regardless of what's happening, good or bad. Things are only going to get more difficult. You can't just shut down when you're fearful. And what are you going to do when I'm no longer here?
Wow. Lord, don't leave us. And that's so, like, what are we going to do? Wow. Because these disciples, they knew Jesus with his earthly ministry, and then they were also kind of our relationship with God once he was crucified, once he was spirit, but like they had the physical human Jesus with them, and they kind of depended on that. I can see that in the way that they interact with him, the way that they missed his absence and all this stuff. They missed his presence even, and I think that just goes to show how important our relationship with God is, not just on a physical level, but also on a spiritual level, in spirit and in truth. Are we really spiritually connected with God? Are we really, seeking that deeper relationship with him where it's not dependent on our situation? Because obviously, as we can see here, he was absent and everything just flew all over the place. Everything just went so out of order and everyone was on edge and anxious. But if we truly have that peaceful relationship with God, in the way that things should be, then we'll have so much more peace.
We are still figuring this out. Yes, but we can do better. We will do better. Rabbi, Philip said the baptizer gave his followers a prayer in addition to the daily traditional prayers. Perhaps you could do the same.
Yes, I'd like to learn more about what you're saying when you're out alone.
Now you're behaving like true students. This is what I like to see. And prayer is the first step in getting the mind and the heart right. It's why you see me go to it so often.
So teach us to pray like you do. Please.
It's so interesting because when you're not in prayer, when you're not in the presence of God, you can get just caught up with your external environment. But when you're with God, that is when you have peace, that's when you have clarity, that's when you have revelation. And I've always discovered when I'm stressed out, when I'm restless, when I need, rest doesn't just come from sleep or watching your favorite TV show and lying on the couch. True rest comes from being with God and being spiritually strong in the Lord. So I think that what they're asking is just so pure and so lovely, and the way that Jesus receives that, and he's like, this is what you're missing, this is what we need to be doing as true students. It's just so nice because I found that true to be in my life. I don't know about you guys, but like when you're in the presence of God and really just taking that time to develop your relationship with him and just maintain that relationship with him, things are just so much more peaceful and restful, and the external environment of your life doesn't hit you as hard as it could if you're not having that peace and that maintenance with your relationship with God.
When we pray, we want to be sure to first start with acknowledging our Father in heaven and his greatness. So you can say, our Father in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
Hallowed be your name. And we always want to be sure to do God's will and not our own. So we say, your kingdom come.
Thy
will be done.
On earth as it is in heaven.
As it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Aww.
Matthew. Rabbi. Sorry to wake you, Matthew.
Are you in trouble?
Shh. I don't want you to wake the others. Nothing's wrong. Why did you wake me up and not the others? I've been forming fragments of teaching in my mind for some months now in preparation for the sermon. I'm ready to organize them. I'll get my writing material. You've just returned from detention. Will these teachings make things worse? I'm here to make things better, not worse, Matthew. But I mean, for all of us who love you, no promises. Let's go. It must be tonight. The time has come.
Okay, so that is the end of today's reaction. I really hope you enjoyed it. So now let's get into the breakdown of this episode. So this part of the episode started off with the disciples and the followers of Jesus gathering round and really discussing an action plan, a game plan of how to proceed from that point of the detainment of Jesus kind of thing. He went in for questioning, really. So he went in for questioning and they're all trying to figure out what to do. What do they do now that Jesus has gone? Because Jesus is the one who gave the commandments, who was the one to be preparing this sermon, and now they're kind of, what do we do? So, but he did leave them with that little tidbit. He said, you know, keep on preparing and I'll be back. But in that time, they had a massive argument. There was a lot of tension between the group, especially with Andrew getting a bit heated. And then there was some heat put on Mary for leaving the group and maybe kind of bubbling up some further tension. And then we move into the questioning of Jesus with I'm just trying to remember his name. So there's Atticus, there's Gaius, and then there's the other one, and I can't remember. Quintus. I think it's Quintus, the guy that he went for questioning with. So Quintus, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but Quintus has this whole persona about him that is just so chaotic, and I love to watch it, but it's also just really cringe, and I love it. So anyway, so Quintus is questioning Jesus, and he has this whole fish analogy about the Far East and how they eat raw fish, and they eat the flesh and they spit out the bones, and he uses that analogy with a lot of the actions of Jesus and the fruits of his ministry. And he talks about how the things that he did in Quintus's favour really helped him, but then also the things that just caused a disruption in his region and really just caused disruption in that area were the bones, and he didn't like that, and he didn't want Jesus to be doing those things anymore, and he kind of gave him a warning. So that whole conversation was kind of a little bit of a warning, and then he let him go. He was like, you know, he's no threat to me. If he was, I would have done something about it. But yeah, I kind of took that whole conversation as a bit of a warning, but obviously Jesus cannot make any promises, and he would not make any promises that he would not hold fast to, because as we know, looking back, that definitely didn't happen. He definitely caused further disruption within the society. So that'll be interesting to see that progression, like I said earlier, and if they have any more civil conversations, because I think it's going to get to the point where the authorities and the Pharisees are no longer civil, and I wonder what that's going to look like from both sides, with them, you know, really losing their cool and really amping up the persecution against Jesus and his followers. We've already kind of seen that if we move further along into the episode, where the Ethiopian woman and the paralytic that was healed are going around and sharing their testimony and really bringing people to faith and opening their eyes to the gospel and what Jesus did for them. And it was interesting that they were talking about the whole disclosure, about sharing the miracle that he did. The leper that was affected and healed was told to, you know, don't say anything, but they weren't told not to say anything. So that's why they were out on the streets, you know, doing all of this and that. And then Andrew and I'm not sure who else was with them. Andrew and I'm not sure who the other guy was. Came and they were like, can we speak to you for a second? You know, Jesus has been taken in for questioning and all of this stuff. So it's quite interesting to see. And in that moment, the Ethiopian woman was like, I want this, I want to follow him. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is just like so awesome, because she wasn't, nothing happened to her, but I guess it kind of did, because you can indirectly be affected by a miracle by just witnessing it, and she was definitely affected positively by witnessing the miracle of her best friend, the paralytic, being healed. So it was really nice to actually see the way that she came to faith, and in that moment she knew that, you know, Jesus was being persecuted, but if he's being persecuted, then she doesn't want to be on the side of the persecutors. She definitely wants to follow him no matter where that goes. And you can kind of see that internal conflict that she was having in that moment, because it was so like stressful and emotional. She was hearing that the guy who saved her her friend was actually, you know, detained for questioning, all this stuff, and she's thinking now, like she's probably thinking, this is the Messiah. It's not just some random guy that, you know, did some bippity boppity boo and made my friend walk. He's actually the Messiah. So I'm really happy to have seen that be shown as, you know, a witness to a miracle being saved. And also we saw a Pharisee go undercover to be an informant to the disciples. That is crazy. And I think that that might have actually happened. I don't know if it would have happened in quite so covert and, you know, so much espionage around it. He went in, he went in disguise and stuff like that to go and tell them about, you know, warn them about what was happening. So I'm not sure what the motives of him was. He was a student of Nicodemus, and obviously therefore not really in alignment with what Shmuel was doing and what he is doing in relation to the persecution of the ministry of Jesus and all of this stuff. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Pharisees, especially the ones that are more inclined to the gospel and not as you know, not as steamrolled ahead as Shmuel is with any kind of thing that isn't exactly to the T of what the Pharisees say, being blasphemous or, you know, anything like that. It's going to be interesting to see the way that they interact with Jesus and his followers from here on out, because obviously there is some kind of rift between the Nicodemus students and the Shmuel students, because I'm pretty sure that Shmuel obviously detached himself from Nicodemus. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in relation to that. So we saw at the end Jesus recite the famous prayer, the Lord's Prayer. So that was really interesting to see as well, the way that he was shepherding his flock into right relationship and the best prayer life possible to structure that prayer. And he really broke it down of how we should reverence God first and then, you know, do all these things in this order, in this way. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens in the season finale, and we'll probably be seeing this massive sermon that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's the Sermon of the Mount. I'm definitely going to be rereading the part of the scripture where there's the Sermon on the Mount. I'm not sure how many of the Gospels it is written in. I'm pretty sure it's all of them, but I'm definitely going to go have another read through and just really make sure that I've got enough to say about it, and just so that it's on the top of my memory and it's really fresh in my mind for the next reaction. So if you've got any comments from my reaction or just the episode in general, make sure to leave them down below, and also leave a like and subscribe to this channel before you click out of the video, and I'll catch you in my next reaction. Stay blessed and bye.